School.
You're probably one of our longest now, no, Carol?
Yeah, I've been here 50 years now. So.
Oh, wow.
There. So yes, I started when it began. You're Christy. What department are you in?
I'm in the CEO department. I've been teaching here for 20 years and recently became a case manager for CEO, and I'm still teaching.
Very good.
Nice.
Joyce? What?
Sure. Well, I'm in academic affairs, and I'm a long timer too, since '98. So, yeah.
And Ava, good to see you, Ava.
Yeah, same.
And how long have you been here now? You've been here a long time.
Yeah, 28, 92. I came in 92.
Yeah.
April 1st, actually, 92. Always cracks me up. No joke.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. My name's Irene Pasternak. I'm in the continuing education and Telos programs. Been, I think, 6 years now. And today is day 2 of 4 sessions on sitting comfortably and working comfortably, especially while teaching online. Today the focus is on eye strain and headaches. So first, how many of you, raise your hand if eye strain is a challenge for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how about headaches?
Not so much.
Okay. And Ava, are the headaches, do they feel like they're eye strain related headaches or muscle tension back here?
Eyesight, and so yes, the strain is often associated with it, but so I used to get headaches way more often than I'm getting them now. So when I get them now, it's eye related.
Okay, then I'm going to focus on eyes for today because that seems to be the issue of the people who are here. People are still sliding on in, so I have to keep remembering to look over there and notice that they're waiting. Welcome. So I noticed that of the people I can see, almost everybody's wearing glasses. And does that mean you have progressive lenses? Raise your hand if you're, yeah. And there's a look you get with progressive glasses, and it's kind of that look when you're lifting. And so my first very pragmatic thing to suggest is get yourself a pair of computer glasses, and big lenses, 1 prescription, the whole thing, so you have more room to look through. It just makes your neck and body have to do less work for accommodating staring at the screen. And you can buy them online. You just get your prescription and go to one of the online retailers and you can get a pair for about $25, even though they're prescription. So I have 3 of these because I have 3 computers I use, and I just leave them by the computer. The only thing that I got them before Zoom time, and I really should upgrade them, I didn't get that reflective coating. And so when they're on, you can't see my eyes, and I think that's harder for students when they can't see your eyes. So I usually wear these unless I'm going to be on all day. When my eyes start to get tired, I switch. All righty. Let's start by waking up some of the movements that we did yesterday. And so I want you to have a good repertoire of things that help you learn how to support your eyes. So come and sit toward the front of your chair. And when you sit on the front of the chair, you look down and notice there's air under your thighs. We're trying to reduce some of the friction under there, and it helps you find your sit bones. On many chairs near the front, there's a very firm part so you can feel the bones there. Okay. And shift your weight onto one sit bone. And just go back and forth a few times for how do you get your weight up there. We played with a couple strategies yesterday. You could push with your other foot to get you on that sit bone. You could raise the shoulder on the sit bone you're going to that side. And it kind of pulls you up there. Or you could take your sit bone, thinking of it as a melon scoop, and scoop the chair. Kind of, okay. So go up to that sit bone and stay up on that sit bone. One other thing to think about. When you go on that sit bone, one way to do it is to tip over. Like take your head and shoulders all the way over that way with your spine as a straight line. Okay. And most of the other ways that I talked about end up taking your spine a little bit this way as you go over there. That on the side you're sitting on, that shoulder is high and the other shoulder and the other hip squish together a little. That's going to be the method that to use in this next little bit. So come up onto that sit bone and make a line forward and back. And you can make that line forward and back like you're trying to make a dent in your chair by pulling in your belly and you go back, and pushing out your belly and you go forward. Okay. And then come back and sit neutral for a moment. Come back over that side. And now make a line left and right. So that means you have to go even a little bit further over to that side. And if you're shifting your weight, we're just going to one side right now. If you're shifting your weight left, tip your head to the right. And if you're shifting yourself right, tip your head to the left. That helps get that rounded curve in your spine. Okay, good. And rest for a moment. Now we're going to go up on that sit bone and try and draw a little circle around it. So you come up on the sit bone and you can take your middle around it. It's like your belly bone is a giant soup spoon and you're stirring a big pot of something with your middle. Or those old-fashioned drills, you know, the kind that have the curve in the handle and you're taking the handle around. Your belly is the handle that you're going around as you're trying to drill a hole in your seat. Now, if I had a bunch of millennials, I wonder if that image would work. Probably not. I tried using an analogy of a beanbag chair with somebody yesterday, and she gave me a lecture of, I haven't seen one of those in 40 years. Okay. And rest. Oh. And one more time, go up on that sit bone, getting a little easier to get up on it, and then go the other direction. So if it was a drill, you'd either be reversing the drill direction. Yeah. And see how much your ribs, see if you can exaggerate when the ribs expand and when they contract. Yeah. I always think of this as kind of like giving yourself a massage from the inside out. And then stop and close your eyes and feel for differences left and right. Is one sit bone, one whole side of you a little calmer? If you exhale and wait for a moment and breathe in, does it feel like one side of you accepts the air a little better? Does one shoulder feel a little further from your ears? And if you wiggle your eyes, does one eye feel a little bit looser in its socket? All right, let's even ourselves out for now. No, before we even ourselves out, stand up for a moment and see if it's easier to turn left or to turn right in standing. Does your head and neck feel a little freer on one side? And then come and sit down. And just as you're sitting here, are you more aware of what's happening on the side of the room which is the side you were sitting on, or on the other side? Like if a student came in through the walls on either side, which way could you see that student coming in? Okay. Let's go to our other side and even ourselves out a little. So find out, how do you get yourself on this side? This is the side you chose second, so it might be your harder side to get onto. So take a moment to experiment with pushing with your foot, lifting your shoulder, scooping the sit bone. You could try the body as a stick technique. And that one's okay for a small motion. It's just if you go too far, it's unstable. Okay. And then deliberately do the curved body. So your whole spine curving a bit. And then get up there. And notice you do feel taller when you're up on that sit bone. And go a little forward and backward. Sensing this time your low back and your belly. How it's an alternation of the low back muscles contract and it pushes you forward, and the belly contracts and you go backward. You go to that front flat side of your sit bone and to the rounded side. And come back to the middle and rest. Come up onto your sit bone again. And this time go left and right. And to go to the outside, you really have to lift that other hip. So check in with yourself to see if your head is moving further than your shoulders. Zoom is wonderful for that because you can see yourself. So if I go over to this side like this and this shoulder goes down, that's the spine as a stick, and that's not going to serve you as well as taking, it's almost like right on the bra line, you're trying to push into something that's over on the side, and that's what gets you further over there. So I teach roller skating and ice skating, and if you can do this little move, you can learn how to skate. So just in case you had a secret desire to get into skating. Okay, good. Rest for a moment. And just as you're resting, tip your head from side to side. And notice if that shifts your weight a little bit on your sit bones. So when we tip the head, think about your ear coming toward your shoulder, and you're shortening that distance in there. Yeah, there you go. And just be gentle with yourself. The amount of movement in there is different for all of us. And then come back up onto this side, letting your head go the opposite way from the sit bone you're sitting on. And though you can drive it with your head tipping, or you could drive it with your sit bone scooping. Okay, and rest for a moment. And then come up on the sit bone and begin to do the drill, whichever direction you want. It might feel easier to go the opposite way a drill does first, or it might feel easier to go the way a drill does, but try them both. And you know, if I'm going to keep using the drill, it goes out the same amount on both sides. So the handle of the drill is making a very round circle as it goes around. Are you making a round circle, or do you have a little lopsidedness, like the handle's a little closer to your axis when you go one way than when you go the other? And go slow enough that you can sense, is it really a circle? And to try to make it a circle. Yeah, I'm seeing by the smiles on people's faces that some of you are like, oh, I do have some flat spots. So let's work with those. Identify where your flat spots are, where it's not round. For me, it's kind of toward the back outside corner, but might be different for all of us. And then come to the middle, and then imagine, well, actually do it. Just go straight out to that area that was flat. So you just play with that. And then go a little bit in front of that and a little bit behind it or a little to the side of it. So you're kind of making, like if this is the flat spot, you're going 3 rays. And then begin to trace an arc, like a piece of pizza. So you go around almost to the flat spot, try and go around the flat spot and back to the center, and then go back the way you came. So you're just tracing a piece of pizza in this difficult area. Okay, and rest for a sec. And then try the drill again and see if that helped you get into that part of you a little bit more. Okay. And rest. Close your eyes. Take a breath. And see if the fabric on the second side is softening a little, being more responsive to breath. I think some of the exhaustion we feel when we do Zoom for a long time is kind of stop breathing. You're really focused, and this getting centered on our bottoms and finding the support from the bottom helps the breath. So put one hand on your belly and one on your low back. Take a breath in. And do you feel both your hands move? Or do you feel it just in the front? And you could experiment. Try sitting up straight the way we were taught to as kids, you know, shoulders back, head up. And take a breath in and feel if you feel it in the front and the back. That usually gets it mostly in the front. And then tip a little forward like we talked about yesterday, so you're on that flat spot on your sit bones. And breathe in. See if you can feel your low back expand. It's one of the measures of are we sitting well, if we can feel both the front and the back expand. You could exaggerate the back if you lean on your elbows for a moment. You could do this on a desk in front of you or on your knees. And then breathe in, and you can direct the air a little bit more into the backside of yourself. It's often an unfamiliar place to put the air, but the lungs are back there, might as well fill them up. All right, good. So now let's start playing directly with the eyeballs. And the first thing that's always interesting is to go, which is your dominant eye? And my favorite way of doing this is to find some spot far away in my room, as if there was a way to get far away in this room. It's not very big. And take your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, take your left thumb and line it up. I'm lining it up with a knob on my bookcase with both eyes open. So the thumb blocks my view of the knob. And then close one eye and see if the relationship of your thumb and the object move.
Wow.
And with one eye, it'll move really far, and the other eye, it might move just a little or not at all. So the eye that when it's open and it doesn't move, that's your dominant eye. And this isn't essential to know, but I think it's kind of interesting. For me, it's my left eye is my dominant eye. And when I sit, I always sit with my left shoulder a little forward and my left eye a little forward, because it's like I want to adjust my body for that. And it's and we often get more tension in the dominant side. Alrighty. So for this next bit, take your glasses off if you have them on. And pick one eye and lightly touch right at the outside corner of the eye. And just close your eyes and feel the skin there. See if it moves up easier or down easier or away from the eye or toward the eye. And then bring your finger in right to the junction with your nose and eye there. And do the same thing with that skin. Does it move up or down? As if it wanted to climb the mountain of your nose or toward your eye. And then still with the eye closed, run your finger very gently along the line of your eyelash to feel the shape of the curve of your eye. And just to feel the bump that's in the middle. Your finger is light like a butterfly, and it might skip along because the skin, it might stick if you go, but just to feel that shape. Okay, and pause for a minute. And then take your finger, touch your closed upper eyelid, and make a very gentle little tiny circle, smaller than a dime, maybe the size of a pencil eraser. And then move your finger to another spot on your eyeball and make another little circle. Just to be sensing the roundness of the eye. It begins to get a sense of how big your eyeball is. And this very gentle circling. Now, if you have contacts, you might need to just imagine doing this. If it doesn't feel good for some reason, don't do it. It's almost, you can feel, even with these little circles, where is it tense in your eye? Okay, and then stop. And just move your eye around in its socket and see if it's feeling a little bit more lubricated in there. One of the other things with the computer is we don't blink as often and our eyes get dry. And this is just a quick way to lubricate the eyeball. Now, keeping your eyes closed for this next part, take your eye a little left and right. Just be thinking about this one eye. The other eye will do what it does. It might come along or whatever. And are you thinking about the front of the eyeball moving or the back of the eyeball moving?
Front.
Yeah. So a few times try and think of the back of the eyeball moving. As if the back of the eyeball was a dish towel and you were drying a bowl behind you with it, or washing a bowl with it, that it's just moving along the roundness of a socket. And rest for a moment. Feel free to open your eyes during the rest. And then close your eyes. And this time imagine that behind this eye there is a handle. And the handle sticks out through the back of your head. And move your eye by gently moving this handle left and right. And you might feel something in your throat, in your neck, just little micro movements in there that help as this handle moves your eye. And rest for a moment. And then take this handle again in your mind and move it up and down. So when the back of your eye moves up, the front of your eye will look down. When the back of your eye moves down, the front moves up. Do it very slowly because this is particularly unfamiliar for most of us. We don't usually think about a handle at the back of our head. Good, and rest. I find this little piece particularly helpful at night. My eyes are tired at the end of the day. If you lie on your back, you can just imagine the weight of your eye deep in the socket. And now get a sense of where in your head is the back of your eyeball. How far back? If you think of like where your nose is, and then the bridge of your nose, the tip of the eyeball is a little bit behind that. And so your eyeball is like a plum shape, and it rests just above your upper palate. So with your tongue, you could explore the upper palate in your mouth up by that eye. And there's a layer of bone above that, and then the socket of the eye. And the back of the eye, if you put your finger and touch your ear, get a sense of like how far from that spot between your two ears is the back of your eye. And with your eyes closed, push your eye a little forward, like you're squinting to, even with the eyes closed, squinting to look at something. And then try and suck the eye backward into the back of the socket. That the eye has this little bit of forward and backward motion. You could imagine that in front of you, there is a thread, and it goes right from the center of this eyeball out into infinity in front of you. And on that thread, there's a little pearl, just a nice round gleaming pearl. And send that pearl away from you. And feel what you feel in your eyeball. So it goes a few inches away, and then it goes further. And then slide the pearl back down the string. And as it gets close to your eyeball, let it turn into a big ring, and that ring goes around your eyeball and back behind you. And then you slide it forward. It goes around your eyeball, it comes together as a pearl in front of you, and you slide it away. And rest for a moment. Rest with your eyes closed and see if one eye feels bigger than the other. If there's just more of your brain aware of one side of your cheek might feel different. And try making yourself yawn, because one side of your yawn might feel a little different after this. And sense your emotions. If there was a piece of plexiglass dividing you in half, left and right, does one side of your body feel calmer, softer, somehow different than the other? And do the breath in again and see if it's a little lopsided right now. And stand up for a moment. If you can get around without wearing your glasses, keep them off. If you're going to kill yourself if you take them off, put them on. And just walk a few steps. See if you notice what differences you notice left and right. And there's this distinction people make between hard eyes and soft eyes. Like if you imagine looking at somebody who you're suspicious of, you kind of squint and it's this hard stare. And then imagine looking at someone, oh, it's like somebody who you've just been wanting to see, but coronavirus you haven't seen, and then you see them. There's this softness and whatever. And this play with the eyes, moving them around in space, helps restore that softness, which I think goes away with Zoom. I see people yawning and things, and eye work can be a little exhausting and tiring, and partly what it does is it lets you realize how much tension you're holding, and then when you let go of the tension, the body goes, oh, I'd really rather go to sleep right now than do anything else. So don't be surprised about it. The other thing about this eye work, some people feel a little dizzy or nauseous as they start playing with their eyes. If that is happening to you, I want you to slow down, maybe only do it for half the time I ask you to, because that reaction can last for a little while if it happens. Alrighty, let's do a couple other things, because I want you to have a handful of tricks that you can use when you need a quick break. You don't have to go through this whole cycle, but just doing one or two of the movements from it, like that little touching your eyeball or playing with the handles in the back of the eyes, can be very quick releases. Take your finger and begin to trace your eye socket, and close your eyes as you do that. And notice if your eyeball traces your finger, follows it, and go the other direction. And then take the finger away and do it just in your imagination. And go the other way. Okay. And then take your finger and make a bigger circle. So it'll go across your temple, down near the hairline, across your cheekbone, up onto the middle of your nose. You can imagine you have a giant pair of ski goggles on, or chemistry lab goggles. Just they fit a little bigger. Go the other way. Eyes closed again. And after doing it with your finger, do it in your imagination, that big circle around your eyeballs. And rest for a moment. Rest with your eyes closed, feeling for sensation differences in your face, maybe even in your sit bones. Go back to doing this big circle in your imagination and see if there's an echo of this circle in your sit bones. So the very first movements we did today of those sit bone circles around yourself, if we let our sit bones help our eyes move, there's less effort to make these big circles. Okay. And rest. It's really all these lessons are doing is the same principle that we talked about yesterday with there's one muscle that pulls a joint one way and one muscle that pulls it the other. And we're alternating using the muscles around our eyes, one side and the other. And then it resets the muscles into their default length so that you have the full range of motion again in your eyeballs. And Just feel the moisture level in one eye versus the other. The sense of receptivity you have to things coming at you from one corner of the room and the other. And let's even ourselves out a little bit. So with the other eye, begin to explore the skin around the eye. Feel how it moves in the inner corner and the outer corner. And it may be different one side from the other. It's always makes me curious, like there must be something lopsided about my smile because the eye on one side, I can go up on the corner and the eye on the other side goes down on the corner. And then begin to gently trace the eyelash curve to feel the roundness of your eye. And then find the little spots on your eyelid that it feels nice to gently touch. And when you touch, it's like your finger connects to the skin and you're moving your eyelid around your eyeball. So you're not sliding on your eyelid. You find a place, fix on it, and you're moving the skin around over the eyeball. And then rest. Rest and with the eyes closed for a moment, feel for differences. See if this side is already beginning to even out. Once the brain is primed by noticing the differences when we do the first side, the second side learns faster. And then let's do the eye circles next. Just taking your finger around the socket in both directions. And then putting your finger down and doing it in your imagination. And in your imagination, notice if your sit bones respond a little bit. Just like little micro movements in your ribs, perhaps in your nose or tongue as you go around in these circles. And rest for a moment. And draw the bigger goggle circle. And then after you've gone with your finger in both directions, do it in your imagination. And rest for a moment, feeling the size of this eye, maybe even its height. Is it lower or higher than the other eye, closer to the floor or the ceiling? And begin to get a sense of the three-dimensionalness of this eyeball. How far back in your skull does it go? And begin to try to use the back of the eyeball to wash the eye socket, that it goes left and right, it can go a little up and down in the back of the eye socket. If it's hard to imagine or sense that, you could add your imaginary handle to the back of your eye and lift the handle up and take it down. Take it a little left, a little right. That handle could go gently in a circle. And just use whichever visualization works better to sense the back of the eye, the washing the eye socket, or the handle. If you're washing it, you know how when you're scrubbing something, you kind of go out to one side and you come back to the middle and you go in a different direction as you're pushing your scrubby. Your eyeball can do that same kind of motion. And rest. And now that you have this three-dimensionality of the eyeball, put a string on this eyeball and it goes in front of you, through the wall, through the outside of your building, out into infinity. And you put a little pearl on it and start it near your eyeball and slide that pearl away from you on the string. And slide it back toward yourself. And just go toward yourself and away in front a few times. It's an interesting sensation. The eyeball actually changes shape a little bit because that's how the lens adjusts for near to far vision. And then one time as you pull it back and you bring this pearl back to your eye, let the pearl open up into a ring that's big enough to go over your whole eyeball and then go behind you and extend back behind you, going away from you behind. And then as it comes back, the ring widens again to go over your eyeball and then goes forward. And then rest. Rest, open your eyes and feel your receptivity to things on that side of the room. And you know that sense of speediness that we get. You wake up and there's all the things that you have to get done before you can be online by 8:30, whatever. And just compare that sense of speediness that's available to you versus how you feel right now. And then stand up. If there's a window, you can look outside, see what it's like to look outside. What it's like to look far away from you and then bring your eyes in to look at something in your room and then look out again. Feel the sensations of how do you go from near to far.
There's a deer, a doe, resting in my backyard.
Oh, how lovely. Unless, of course, you have vegetables or other plants that you would rather keep having. I'm never sure. I have a deer who comes into my yard, and I've gone out with a camera and I've gone out with a broom, and I'm, one in each hand.
Understood. Yeah, she's done in all the roses.
All right, and just come and sit down for a moment. I want to show you one quick technique that can be used in your minute between classes, or you give your students a 5-minute break. It's something you can do. And you take your hands, the palm of your hands, it's called palming. You put the palm over one eye, kind of sealing the eye socket, and your fingertips across your forehead. And then you put the other hand on there. So it ends up with a cross, and it's very dark inside. And the goal is to try to make it as dark as you can. And if you open your eyes can be closed inside here, and try and move your fingers around so you seal off every little bit of light that comes in. And then imagine that you're looking into a deep, dark, velvet black cave. Just the darkest, delicious, smooth space to look in. It's taking away all the input. And if you do this after a computer session, you might find that it's not so dark, that you see little shooting lines around or patterns. And just try and soften your eyes to find more darkness. I'm doing this for about 30 seconds. Is usually enough to get a brief refresh of the eyes. And when you're ready, take your arms down. This is another lovely one to do before bed. You're lying in bed and you do this, and it helps the eye muscles relax before you go to sleep. And so then you wake up with them feeling nicer. So go ahead and put your glasses back on if you have glasses. And they might feel a little strange. Glasses are a weird thing because they make us feel like our eyes are a little in front of ourselves. And so they pull the eye forward. But I wanted to have a little conversation. Partly, that's enough eye work to do in one day. If you do more than that, it just gets everything tired and cranky, and I don't want to go into that stage. One pure ergonomics thing we need to think about is how high your monitor is. And you can do some exploring with your monitor of moving it up or down, putting it on books or not. Just see that there's something in the chat. Okay, Joyce is just saying she has to leave. All right. So I don't know if there's an absolute right, but a lot of us put our monitor up too high, especially if we have progressives, and so moving the monitor down. I find the biggest challenge is I share with my husband, and he's 6 foot tall and I'm 5'3", and so having to be able to adjust it is important that way. All right, let's come back to the front of our chairs. If you want to take your glasses off, you can. If you don't need them, or do this with your eyes closed. And right at the beginning, we did a circle around one sit bone and then we did the other side. Now we're going to make it a figure 8 around our sit bones, or an infinity sign, depending on how you want to think about it. And just play with that little motion. And play with it with your eyes closed. And just see if there are some sensations in your eyeballs as you do that. And try going the other way. And then sit back in your chair, rest for a moment. Does anybody have any questions or particular eye issues they want to address in the last few minutes?
The Zoom screen is very white. It's shockingly white.
Is white. Interesting. Mine is black as its background.
Well,
As-
if I open all the participants, it would be, but a normal Zoom screen is very white, and that's kind of hard on the eyes. I don't know.
So like if you're in speaker view or in, so you might play, do you have a virtual background?
No, I don't.
Okay, so what's the big white thing behind you?
No, the screen itself is just white with Zoom in the middle of it.
Do you expand your Zoom window to be a full screen?
I can. Yeah, and then it's like this, and I see everyone better.
Uh-huh.
But so much of the time, my screens are very white.
So do you use a Mac or a PC?
PC.
So in the PC, in the settings, in the display settings, there are options for the default scheme, color scheme, and there are darker color schemes. So you might be able to find one that you find less stressful on your eyes. So if you, in your search, type display settings, and let's see if we can find what that is. It's been a few years since I've looked for that setting. I know it's there somewhere. There's a changing screen brightness,
Yeah.
and there's the night light settings. There's anyway, poke around in there looking for how to, you might have to do a Google search or something for how to change the display theme in Windows. Yeah, I've never looked at this in Windows 10 before. Oh, let's go display. How to change screen color. It's not under display settings. It's under control panel, appearance and themes, and then display. It's one of those things like adjusting your chair height that we talked about yesterday. When something's bugging you, see what you can do differently. Yeah. Any other questions? And I think let's wrap things up for today. Get 15 minutes back to do what you need to do. But I think we're at a good closing point for the class. So thank you for coming. And tomorrow we're going to work with backs, and then on Thursday, wrists, wrists, elbows, shoulders, hands issues. And I've put in a proposal for next quarter, for winter quarter, for doing a weekly class of just like a weekly check-in, see what's bothering people that week, and we'll do a lesson for that. Because these lessons that we're doing are, it's learning a new way of using yourself, a new way of being curious, of being proactive when things are bugging you, to find something different. And it's a skill that takes some time to learn. And so doing it on a regular basis helps that become a part of you. And that's really where Feldenkrais works its magic, when you start switching your thinking from, I'm this poor victim of Zoom with sore eyes, to what can I do differently as I'm doing Zoom to keep my eyes happier, or, you know, but applying that in all aspects of life. It's a more empowered position. Yeah. Alrighty. Hope to see you again in a class, and
Thank you very much.
nice to hang out. You're welcome.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.